God is described in Psalms as the protector of widows. We see again and again in the Bible an imperative to care for and protect widowed women. In Kazakhstan, I went with a team to provide food and a Bible to a local widow. Our team, we went to the store, we picked up some items, and we hoped that we could help, and we headed out to find the house. The woman we were going to see, her name was Raigul. She lived with her daughter, who was disabled. The two were otherwise alone. As we arrived at the house, she stood there waiting for us at the door. She was so excited to have visitors, and she was excited for the help that we brought as well. We brought food, we brought blankets, and Raigul, she was widowed 40 years ago. She's been a single mother since then, and she excitedly welcomed us into her apartment with this big smile. The apartment was incredibly small. It only had one room, and it couldn't have been more than 100 square feet. The room was covered with a red carpet, and a few things caught my eye when I walked in. The main thing was there was no furniture. There were no beds for Raigul or for her daughter. They had spots to sleep on the ground with a blanket each just about, and there were no couches or chairs for them to sit in. The room had a really small sink in the corner and a little table where Raigul kept her camping stove. They kept whatever food and whatever water they had underneath that little table, but they had no cabinets. Raigul's daughter had gone to work whenever we got there, so it was just her. The apartment, it was cold, and Raigul hadn't been able to pay her heating bill. The bathroom was not even inside the apartment. It was outside in a small wooden shack, and it was only equipped with a squat toilet, which is a toilet without a seat. Despite all of this, Raigul welcomed us in, and she enjoyed hosting us. She had prepared a meal of fried bread, and she had candy on hand. She set it all up in the middle of the floor. She just threw it in the middle of the floor, and we sat and we shared the meal and cups of tea together. The culture in Central Asia promotes hosting people and laying out these elaborate spreads of food. If all of the food is eaten, that means you probably didn't have enough to host people. As we were sitting and eating, I was just taken aback by how much effort she had put into the meal and the tea for us. We were the ones bringing aid and trying to encourage her, but she still wanted us to feel taken care of. It reminded me a lot of my grandma, who lives back in the United States. She suffered through some pretty severe medical issues during my life, and there are days where it's really hard for her to get up and move around. Also, she would get tired, and those things would happen. And no matter how badly she felt, she would always have food and drink to offer her grandkids or anybody else who comes into her room. Over 7,000 miles of distance separates them, my grandma and Raigul, but they both have that same motherly, grandmotherly instinct. It broke my heart to see the way that Raigul was living and thinking of my grandma being in that same position. My grandma has had a family to take care of her, modern medicine to help. Raigul has none of that. Both Raigul and my grandma are the same age. We ate and drank, and we got to share the Bible with Raigul. She received the Bible in Kazakh, her native language. She told us her story and explained how little she was getting from the government and how little she was living on. She's not alone in that struggle. Many, many widows around the world have trouble making ends meet and staying healthy. Not to mention that some, they have people to care of besides themselves, like Raigul had her daughter. In Kazakhstan, when the winter arrives, things get even tougher for widows like Raigul. They can be bitterly cold, and it makes it even harder to find people to ask for help from in the street. It makes it harder around the house. Bible Mission has been called by God to help support widows, not just in Kazakhstan, but also in Moldova, Ukraine, Belarus, Tajikistan, and Russia. We help equip the local churches to support the widows in these places and to show the love of Christ. It's the heart of God that the widows are taken care of. We see repeatedly in the Bible this truth. The Bible Mission has helped with supplies for 400 widows so they could survive last winter. We help to supply wood and coal for the heating and food so widows don't have to go and pay for it or go get it themselves. The local Christians in these countries are on the ground supporting people and reaching those who don't know Christ yet. We could really use your help to equip the believers in these countries and provide widows with aid. If you want to provide widows food, it only costs $50 for a winter month or $125 for 3 winter months. For heating material, it's $75 a winter month or $200 for 3 winter months. Connect with us here and see how you can help at BibleMission.org or follow us here on YouTube or on Instagram. James chapter 1 verse 27 says, "Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world."